Attention everybody, the views and opinions expressed on the show are not necessarily those of Acts Ministry, Acts Media Group, and or their affiliate and subordinate ministries and or nonprofits.
Father, hear our prayer. Father, see our prayer. We dance for the rain. 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 Well, good morning. We are Sacred Fire Ministries, and we are Sacred Ways, and we just want to take this time to thank all of our veterans and those who have given their life for this country, all over this country. And we're going to sing a song that our group called Freedom out of Branson, Missouri sings, Soldier's Prayer, written by Linda Lynn. A moment of silence.
As I walk toward the battleground, I hear my Savior speak to me. Do not let fear rule your heart. I am your God, your Majesty.
I will cover you with my armor. I will anoint you with my prayer. I'll protect your very steps, and you will know that I am there.
Please, dear Lord, don't let me die. I have a wife and family. I die for my country and its liberty. I die for my land if need be. But who will tell my children, Lord, and my precious wife, that I fought for freedom, but lost my life?
I will cover you with my armor. I will anoint you with my prayer. I'll protect your very steps, and you will know that I am there.
And who will hold my mother, Lord, and my father too, as the soldiers ring the doorbell with the dreaded news?
Take my hand, son, and walk with me. You can claim your victory. You fought the fight, your duty done. Walk with me to eternity.
Dear family of this soldier, I feel how weak any words of mine would be to attempt to heal you from a loss so great. I pray that our Heavenly Father may soften the anguish of your bereavement and leave you with only the cherished memories of your loved soldier and the solemn pride that must be yours to have paid so costly a sacrifice upon the altar of freedom. God bless you, and
Let freedom ring. So Tell it to the nations, your soldier died for us. His life stood for victory, so we could all be free. Let freedom ring, let freedom ring, let freedom ring. Boy, it's hard to hit that note when you ain't warmed up. We want to thank you all for those who have served and those families who have served, and we just want to thank you. We are Sacred Ways, and we sing that in Branson, do we not? We're thankful to have a guest here with us this morning. His name is Joe Goad. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you. How you doing?
All right. Joe and I went to high school together in McPherson, Kansas. This is my wife, Belinda.
Hello.
And I am Troy. We are Sacred Ways, and we just want to thank you today for being here on Memorial Day weekend and listening to us and being here with us. We want to start off the day. We were out there in the hallway, if you could real quick, Joe, talking about Memorial Day and the month of May. I remember the month of May when we were children. We'd always have a parade.
Yes. Yep.
And
right
then,
downtown.
Right downtown, and most of you all probably did have a parade sometime downtown Main Street, or Memorial Day weekend or something, have a parade. And then during that time you mentioned a carnival.
Yeah, we was always looking forward to having that carnival come to town.
I know.
That was a big thing for us.
And it was right across the street from our house, kind of, we were on Elm Street, and it was in this big parking lot for a while. And Dad put it there. My father was the building inspector, so he always had that place. It was right across the Church of the Nazarene, so we could get out, save, sanctify, fill the Holy Spirit, and then go right across the street and play those carnival games. They were evil, evil, evil.
You couldn't hardly win a thing.
I couldn't win a thing.
It was terrible.
I know it. And most of the people we were watching, running those things, and then they would hire people, from our high school or stuff like that, and give people jobs. So anyway, and then Memorial Day weekend. What about Memorial Day for you, baby? What did you guys do here in Buffalo?
Actually, I don't remember.
I do. They had what they call Buffalo gals, and if y'all ever from Buffalo, they'd have these parade and these little big old gals. No, I'm gonna get hit now. They're called Buffalo gals, and they have their own band here in Buffalo, Missouri.
Yeah.
The girls would kind of like our girls back in Mac. Half the band was girls anyway, and they're the ones that played the saxophones and stuff. I don't even think we had a girl drummer, did we? It was me.
I don't
Mark.
think we did.
We had 2 Marks, 2 Troys, drummers.
Oh, wow.
I don't think we did. No,
Yeah.
no go. So tell us about where you guys spent Memorial Day weekend.
I just remember, I think, going on a memorial picnic when they used to have boat races up at Camdenton, the Lake of the Ozarks and stuff. And I remember doing that on Memorial Day. Of course, after we had gone to grave sites and, put up our flowers and things. So that's all I remember, really, as a child about Memorial Day.
And Lake of the Ozarks is still big on the boat races
Yeah,
up there.
are they having that today?
I believe. Well, I don't know if they are
Yeah.
today or not, but
Oh.
I know that they're
still
constantly
doing
doing
that.
a lot of boat racing up there.
Yeah. It's fun. It's really fun to watch. It's fascinating.
When Olivia was little, we used to go to Rockaway Beach. Mom and Dad went to Rockaway Beach for their honeymoon, and so it was right over here by the side of Branson. And they had these little boats no bigger than this table here.
Yeah.
And they'd have them boat races, and man, when they hit the water,
Oh, yeah.
they fly off
Oh, they
there. I've
do. They're in the air
They're
more
in
than
the-
they're on the water.
That's true.
Yeah.
See, we went one year, and we went to see them boat races, and about 8 o'clock in the morning, you're asleep in your nice little cabin, they're warming up there. Sound like these like weed eaters and everything, but boy, they were going, weren't they? So Memorial Day weekend, explain to us what Memorial Day weekend means to people, Belinda. We were looking that up today, and we realized it was, 1971. That's what they said, but I thought it was before that, Joe.
I thought it was before
we
that.
celebrated
Of course,
Memorial.
we didn't know as kids. We just went along with it all,
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, Joe and I went to high school together up in McPherson, and a little bit of elementary school, and then went to junior high together. Speaking of junior high, I got to tell people we have a football. I don't know if you probably gone home, so just son that there's a football there in that casing in our junior high school. We were all undefeated. Remember signing that football?
Yeah, and I haven't been back now for a while to the junior high.
To the junior
I
high.
went back to the high school
Right.
just this last year, and I went up and told. Of course, everybody's there is new now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And told them who I was and what I've done with my inventions, in the archery world, and they're like, "Wow!" And so the lady in the office, she pulls up a picture of me. And my grade point average, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, it was really, my grade point average was terrible.
Yeah.
I was a really smart kid, actually.
Oh,
yeah.
I
yeah.
just didn't care to do the school things so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
It was just that way. And I brung that picture home, and my wife looked at that, and it had my grades on there. Well, we know our daughter doesn't get this from you. Nope, she sure
Nope.
doesn't.
Nope. I know Joe as he's a good mechanic. He knew how to work on cars. He would have the hottest car. Actually, him and Troy Winters. I remember she wants a car just like Troy, the old '64 Mustang.
Yes, convertible.
And he
That's
had the
my
Ford.
dream car.
They both
Yeah,
had Ford.
I was a big Ford guy.
Oh yeah, it was Torino, wasn't it?
It was
Green?
the Fairlane 500
That's right.
Cobra edition. Had the 428 Super Cobra Jet,
Wow.
2 4-barrel carburetors.
I remember
I was
those.
16
I
years
remember
old
those.
driving that car.
16 years old.
Wow.
I had hot cars all my life.
Guess
I mean,
what I
that's
had?
just what I had.
I had a
And you
two-door
still have
Chevy.
hot cars.
I had a two-door Chevy Bel Air.
Yeah, we still got hot
Wow.
cars because
Still
I'm
hot
still
cars.
into the racing stuff now.
Yeah, he is. He really is.
He was telling me that they just built him, and a friend just built a race
Yeah,
car.
last season my crew chief, Ben, Ben is a full-blooded Cherokee, and he welds. Ben can do anything. He is a master of all kinds of stuff. But me and Ben got together and we just built the whole new chassis for my drag car,
Wow.
and now we're just fixing to put the new motor in it and all that here pretty quick. So,
Wow.
yeah, we built the whole chassis. I mean, every piece, every
Wow.
nut, bolt, tube. We built the whole chassis.
How long did that take?
We actually built it in 3 months.
Wow.
We had to cut every piece. Basically he was the welder, I was the cutter. So he would measure stuff. We'd both measure it all. We'd try to measure it twice and cut it once. Sometimes that didn't work out because you're cutting and you're notching the tubes to fit in specifically how tight, and no gaps and this and that. So it's kind of tough. It took a while to build it, but we got it all done in about 3 months.
Wow.
Something else.
So
That's
cool.
amazing,
That
actually.
reminds me of some of the stories we hear about people in Cuba who don't have any factories and stuff like that, and they've built these cars. Man, I actually do want to go
Right.
there and see all these cars.
They have beautiful cars from the 50s and 60s. And,
Man, totally awesome. So, Joe, hey, after you were in high school, we went in the delayed program. People don't know what that was. You were entered into the delayed program. I went in. Immediately I was in the Navy, passed my test, and I just want to thank you and your family for taking me in when I was young, and being a part of your family. But when you went in, you went in delayed program. We were in the buddy program. Remember all those buddy programs? And I ended up in Kansas City in the Great Lakes, and you ended up where?
Well, I ended up doing basic at Fort Knox and AIT, and then
Now,
I ended up at
He did say Fort Knox. Okay.
Yep. I was at Fort Knox for my basic and AIT, and then after that, I come home for 2 weeks, and then we was able to go get our things together, and that's when I bought that Cobra.
Yep.
And took it to Fort Campbell. I was with the 101st Airborne at Fort Campbell.
Okay.
I was a Cav Scout out there.
There you go.
Out at the
Now,
Cav
what does
unit.
that mean?
Well, we were actually the ones that would go in into the enemy territory. We would call back positions, how many they had, what they had, stuff like that. Your life expectancy wasn't very long because you're kind of out front there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I wouldn't have changed it for anything.
Nope.
I had a good time. I mean, I actually had a really, really good time at Fort Knox during basic because I was kind of a hardcore dude, and
Yeah.
and so I really enjoyed basic training actually.
Yeah.
They push you and push you and push you, and I like to be pushed.
Yeah.
I guess sometimes.
I say this, but I've never. We had several colored folks in our community, but I'd never run into colored folks until I got in the Navy. And then
Well, we didn't hardly have any colored folks there in
we had
McPherson and Mac. You know, Bird.
That's right.
Old Jimmy
The
Bird.
Birds.
And some of their family, and that was it.
That was my family.
That was it.
Yeah,
You
I
know, and they were really great people.
were
They were
good
very
folk.
nice people.
And boy, they could play the sports. Let me tell you what, man.
And Jimmy was
And
good with the
Jimmy
hot
was a
rod
hot
stuff
rod.
too.
Yeah,
Yep,
he was.
Jimmy was good with the hot rod stuff.
Yes,
You know,
sir. Yes, sir.
I built my first motor when I was 14 years old.
Yep,
Wow.
There in the driveway right there in Mac.
in Mac. I remember that.
Yeah.
So was your dad like? Did you? I mean,
My
what-
dad couldn't change the oil in a car.
And my dad
did
couldn't
you
get
get
my
that?
attention to do
I,
it.
I've got a really little funny story
Yeah.
here. My grandfather, his dad, was a mechanic. He was an
Okay.
engineer, a train engineer.
Oh wow.
And on the weekends, Grandpa Goad would bring a car home from a friend, you know, and he would actually rebuild the motor during the
wow.
weekend. Of course, back then it was pretty simple motors, you know, back
Yeah.
in the 50s and 60s.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and so, anyways, my dad had a car that he had some issues with. And so my grandfather was going to, all righty, well, we'll fix it. So Dad was going to try to attempt to help Grandpa Goad. And when it was all said and done, Grandpa, and they got it all running, Grandpa did everything. Dad didn't really know what he was doing. I don't think he knew which end of a wrench was a box end and an open end. But Grandpa was in there, and he fixed himself a cup of coffee and sat at the table with my dad. And he said, now, Jim, that was my dad's name. He said,
Yeah.
now, Jim, do me a favor. When later on in life, when you have problems with your cars, take them to a mechanic. Do not attempt to turn a wrench on anything you own. And I guess Dad really took it to heart, because I'm telling you, he did not know how to change the oil. He knew how to pop the gas cap and put gas in, but he did not know anything else. And so me growing up, I guess, you know, if it can skip a generation, I got the mechanic gene, I guess,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I was doing nothing but I was building motors when I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
And my dad was, I'd bought one car. It was an old 67 Galaxy 500.
That's right.
It was my first car, and it had an old 352 motor in it, and I was just dying to pull that motor out and put in a motor I'd found a motor in the salvage yard. Back then we could walk to salvage yards and get anything.
Yeah.
And it was an old 390 Cyclone motor, fit right in, bolt right in. And my dad told me, son, you're not going to put that motor in and mess this up and mess that up and all that. He just didn't know anything. And
yeah.
when that motor finally blows up and goes out, then you can do it. So I did everything I could to blow that old motor up.
Me too.
That poor old Ford,
He did.
I just
He did.
did everything I could. I mean, 60 mile an hour in first gear.
Down-
And that thing would be screaming.
Main Street.
Oh, wow.
Just insane.
Yeah.
But it was great. I finally blew that motor up.
Yeah.
But it was not before. Then it was time to go into the Army.
Yeah.
By the time I did that. So I left it at home with Dad. I left the car at home, no motor in it. I come back after basic and AIT, and he's got a little old 302 that he had some mechanic put in this thing, and he's driving it around. And I'm thinking, Dad, really?
Really? Yeah.
Oh, man. That was some fun times back then, man.
Yeah. Well, that's
You
why
know.
we were talking about today is memories.
Yeah.
You know, in our past and things like that. And I remember, you know, McPherson as a town. Now this is when, you know, I remember wearing your parents' shoes, Goad shoe, or not Goad shoes.
Yep, Goad's
it
Family
was
Shoe
Goad
Store.
Family Shoe Store.
Yep.
That's right. And then we had, you could go buy jeans at a jeans store. You could buy, we had the music. I lived my life there, or furniture store like Green's Furniture, where Mom and Dad worked, or you know, or you could come get gas from us or from the Texaco stations, or you know, and then but that back in those days, see. We were lucky. Those little towns were clean,
Yes.
and you
Oh,
didn't-
yes.
you didn't
Very
have to worry
clean.
about coronavirus because the machine would come by every day and run. Remember, it come by the house, and you could hear that street sweeper.
Yep. They were constantly doing stuff like that.
Oh, constantly, yeah, cleaning up. And then I remember having to cleaning those machines up because they would be in the barn, and my dad would have me wash them off sometimes when it was Saturday or a chore, you know, in the city barn, washing them machines off, or his truck out, city truck for McPherson. And then I got back, and I come into town. I got to tell you this. I come back into town with my dress whites on in 80, 81, and nobody said a word to me. Didn't even recognize who I was.
Right.
Didn't recognize who I was.
Oh, well,
And-
recognizing us.
Or wouldn't even say anything.
Oh my gosh.
I know it.
And then years later, you know, I decided that I'm going to move after the Army and after everything else. I decided I'm going to move to Cassville
Right.
with my grandmother.
Right.
And I take a job at a dealership. Now, I have not seen Troy in years.
Yeah.
Okay, 10 years, I guess. And I'm in Ford dealership over here. I'm working on a car, and I cannot get this. Supposedly the customer's going to come pay cash for this car at 4:00.
Oh, wow.
And they're telling me, and you got to get this thing right because the mirrors quit working on this thing.
Yeah.
And it was an old Thunderbird. It was a Thunderbird, a new Thunderbird. And well, you're just going to go up front and take that up with the salesperson. I said, well, by golly, I will.
And he did.
I'll go take it up front. I walk up front. Who's the salesperson for this thing? They said, well, it's that guy right over there. I walk in the office, and it's Troy Johansson.
You guys were working
My
at the
high school
same
buddy,
place and you
Troy
didn't know?
Johansson. And I walk in there, I look at him, and I go, I see the name tag on the desk, and I look at him, and I go, Troy? He looked up at me, and he goes, Joe?
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that was crazy.
Yeah.
You don't see each other for years, and then all of a sudden we're working in the same building. In a different state,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden we're right there together.
All together.
That is that's amazing.
Yeah.
But you
That's-
guys didn't know each other was working there.
No, we had no idea.
Wow.
We had no idea. I had no idea I was going to run into Troy when I walked up front to give him a piece of my mind about that car.
Did you give your piece of
Oh,
mind?
yeah.
No,
no.
not
I-
really.
I think we
it was
actually
it was
talked
like
about it and forgot
I'll
about it.
do the best I can to get this thing
Yeah.
going.
Well,
but
okay.
you know, it all went away then at that point in time because we were so happy. You know,
Yeah.
it was pretty neat to just
Wow.
walk in on your high school buddy.
Yeah.
Just all of a sudden. You know, because you took off in the Navy, I took off in the Army.
Yep.
We went totally
Totally
different
different.
directions.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we're together 10 years
Again.
later in the same dealership in Missouri.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's that happen?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's just,
It
how
don't.
small is this world? You know,
Yes.
and all the veterans out there. I just got to say, man, this is, you know, for me and Troy, this is a great day
Yeah.
to remember our friends and the families and,
Yeah.
families.
of everybody, of all the veterans.
His
because
parents, my
it's not
parents.
just the veterans that served; it's their families.
families.
Yeah.
were
Oh,
there
yeah.
too. They had to deal with them being gone. They had to deal with them being there
And
They had
coming
to deal
back.
with us coming back. I mean, it's all a big thing.
I love my parents, but they couldn't deal with me when I got back.
Yeah.
I tried to even join college, and I had to actually go out to Grandpa's farm for a while and just sit. I remember going out there on that road and just sitting and just remembering what it was like.
Yeah.
But I remember what it was like because I tried to make the track team. You made the track team. Have you seen pictures of Randy Vaughn? Randy Vaughn kind of looks like Randy Nelson now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
he's out there like this. And it's like, oh, Randy Vaughn, come on.
Yeah,
Now
it's
you-
neat because now we can have the Facebook and we can
I know.
keep up with some
All
of
of
our
our
friends from high
friends
school.
from
Yeah,
high school.
I'm you know, we was going to do the I just found out the other day that we was rating to do our 40th reunion.
Yep.
And they decided to postpone it till next year.
Good.
That way more people can get to it and they'd feel a little safer and
Yeah.
it didn't matter to me. I was going one way or the
going,
other.
yeah.
I didn't care.
I
I was
didn't
going to
either.
show up, but it would be nicer to have a lot more show up.
Yeah.
You know, so that would be neat.
We were there a couple last year, and McPherson has moved all the way out to the I-35 now.
Yes.
It's all out there. Before it was just, almost to the park when we were kids.
Yeah,
to the park.
and we've still got several friends from high school
We
that
do
are
too.
still there,
Still there.
in
Yeah.
Mac.
In
They're
Mac.
still there.
I call them once a month and talk to them. And then we've still got friends that we've served with.
Yes.
Let me tell you about a friend that has been very influential in my life. His name is Wade Franks. He wrote a book called Never Forgotten. Is one of the soldiers' inspiring stories about how life brought full circle from the muds of Vietnam and the battlefield that caused his life to go completely off course to a healing and restoration guide back through God and the divine care and plan. Actually, his book is a very good book. You'll read it about that. Wade Franks dedicates his book to all those who have served in Vietnam, who have traveled in other countries, like you and I have been. He also, him and his wife and family, minister about this. If you get a chance, his name is Wade Franks. It's called Never Forgotten. The book is called Never Forgotten, but inside there you'll see pictures of Wade Franks, and then you'll also see the story about Joe. And Joe is the dog, and there's Wade and his M60, and Joe and the dog, and taking the Hamburger Hill. You'll learn about that. And then, of course, Dave Reaver and his books called Scarred. We're going to get more into that. A wonderful man. Then also another Vietnam veteran that we know very well wrote a book called The Abyss, the Journal of the Unmerited Grace and Getting Home by Michael Schnook and Lori Schnook. Very good man. Anyway, so I remember in 1975, it was 1975, Uncle George came home. Chris and Kara's parents, you met them at my mother's passed away funeral. And Chris and Kara and Uncle George had passed away, or came home. And then we went out to the garage and we find out why he came home. He had sent some care packages home from Cambodia. They were good at them days. Yes, sir. Straight from Cambodia. And if you ever been to Cambodia, y'all know what I'm talking about. And that was back in the 70s, okay, in the 80s, and free love and things like that. So anyway, so I remember him doing that, and then he said, don't you ever mess with that when you get over there. Guess what I did the very first thing we got over. Anyway, so and then we got home. I got a baseball scholarship, and I figured you'd be playing pro baseball or something by then. He was big into sports, and I was into chasing women and music and doing what my mother told me to do, and I didn't get very far with that either.
Yeah, I had a tryout with the Cincinnati Reds.
That's right.
And I was pitching, and I was a right-handed pitcher, but I preferred to bat left-handed.
That's what I did. Yep.
Which put my right arm toward the pitch coming in, and they would not let me bat anyway, so I left. I walked off. I went and played football.
He did. He played football, and I played baseball at Coffeyville Community College.
Yep.
Got started there. I could switch hit, and I'll tell you what really helped me is, and this is no kidding, I played, hardball, but I also played church league softball. And playing with those giants of men, playing church league softball really helped.
Right.
And stuff like that, and learning how to play. And then I ran into a guy named Bill Smith and chewed my tongue in half. Remember that? I remember that, and I had to sew it right back, and I still got stitches here when I bit my tongue off, and they sewed it back on. So that's why I sound a little bit different. So, and then of course, our parents, my mother's passed away, and
yes.
Dad's still alive. And your parents?
Mom passed away just after my 40th birthday, and I actually had another boxing. I got in after the football. I got into doing boxing. I taught boxing. I boxed with Curtis Cokes. He was helping train me out of Dallas, and then I started teaching boxing.
Right.
I really enjoyed teaching the kids, and that was great. And then one of my boys got into a match and it was one of the older boys, and he took a whooping from one of these.
Ooh.
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to be that way. We were supposed to be more of an exhibition match.
Yeah. And
this kid just beat my boy.
Wow.
Pretty hard. And I thought, you know what? This kid he was getting ready to turn pro, so I went and I told him, I said, well, before he does that, I want to box that kid.
Yeah.
I want to box that boy. Because he wasn't a boy. He was 22 years old. And me and him, it was a draw.
Yeah.
We were throwing bombs at each other, man. And my boys, they kept telling me, Joe, Coach, you don't got to go in there and do that. You don't got to. But so I took, and my mom was my greatest. Mom was always there. She went to all the ball games.
Yep.
She went to everything with me. And just after my 40th birthday, I was actually going to take a pro fight. Got my pro card signed, and my mom passed away.
Yeah.
So I pulled out of the fight. I just stopped.
Yeah.
I didn't care to do much after that with mom, because mom was my everything.
Yeah.
Dad was still good till just about 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
Dad passed away, so
Yeah.
they're both gone now.
I remember your mother was going to let me bring my drums down in your basement, so I couldn't play them outside or inside, but I could bring my drum. I was a drummer.
Mom was so cool.
She was.
She got in my car one time, my
She
Cobra,
was.
because I'd kind of, let's say I avoided the police one night
Oh.
in the car. I pulled up
Who
into the
didn't?
driveway.
Yeah.
It was just one of them things. You
Yeah.
had to give it a try. And so the next day, one of the policemen was sitting over there at the church across the street over there on,
Yeah,
on Elm Street.
yeah.
And the church on the
Oh,
corner,
that's
and they
right,
were
yeah.
sitting over there waiting for me to get in my car.
Oh.
My mom put my cowboy hat on. And she pulled that thing out the garage, and she drove it down the street. And they pulled her over. They thought they didn't see her get in. They just seen the cowboy hat. They pulled her over, and they come up to the door. They looked in there, and it's my mom.
Oh, well.
What I do, officer? Nothing. Nothing. Where's Joe at?
Yeah.
Have Joe come down to the station. We'd like to talk with him.
Yeah.
My mom was great. She would just
That's
do
a good
anything.
mom, that's for
yeah,
sure.
she would do anything for anybody. She was really that way. you
But it was
know.
cool. It was a little town. It was well, we weren't a little town, but it was the little town thingy that
Little enough that,
and
that everybody
knew
knew
everybody.
Oh,
Yeah.
Even the chief of police was a friend of ours, and
Yeah.
their daughter went to high school. We were in school with the chief of police's daughter.
Yes.
So we spent the whole summer at the pool. So
Yeah.
it's just awesome. So since we're on this subject, I just want to thank those teachers that we had in high school. I gave them a hard time, especially the math teacher and maybe Mr. Henry, which is
Oh, goodness.
Mr. O. Henry. That's our junior high boys teacher. What about you, honey? What do you remember in high school that I should have brought? Maybe if we bring her sisters on, she has 6 sisters, so they've got a lot of memories, and one boy. But
5 sisters.
5 sisters. Yeah, 5 sisters.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And so, what do you remember, like in high school, or your sisters, or you were telling me?
I don't really have a lot of memories about my childhood because I grew up very quickly. I was already moved out of my parents' house when I was like 16.
Yeah, I did too.
So, I went to work, my first job was when I was, other than babysitting when I was 14, my first job I got was at 15. So I've been in the workforce since then. So,
Yeah, I used to cut mowing grass for Radke Oil
Yep.
out there, and
I had a little old lawn boy
And
mower.
you had
I'd walk
yep.
around town. I'd cut
He
some
did.
grass,
He
and then
did.
I'd be up there selling shoes at the shoe
he
store.
would be selling shoes.
and you,
I
didn't you
bought
work
them
at
from
a-
him.
Didn't
Yeah.
you work at your parents'?
Yeah, I worked at the gas station.
Yeah, gas
Yep.
station.
Yeah, for Radke, Mr. Radke out there on the highway, and then the one in town is Texaco. I don't know if y'all remember Texaco, but Texaco Oil, you bet. So in the next few minutes we have left, so let's talk, Joe. Lately, you've come across a man in your life that you've gotten to meet him, and I believe his last name is first name is Donald. Last name starts with a T.
The Donald.
The Donald.
Mr.
Tell us
President
about
Trump.
yes. Tell him about that.
Well, we have a friend. My brother and I have a friend that is actually on President Trump's detail.
Right.
He goes everywhere. I'm not going to mention any
we
names or
can't.
any of that, but he goes everywhere with President Trump. He's part of his safety crew. It's something else. And 2 years ago now, I guess, President Trump was coming to Springfield, and my friend got a hold of me and my brother. Would y'all like to meet him? Oh, gosh.
Yes.
I mean, you ain't got to ask me twice.
Yeah.
So we actually got to go just be at the airport, because he asked me if we wanted to meet him at the airport or at the convention center or whatever. So no, I'd rather have it more personable at the airport because,
Yeah.
there's not so many people. We were actually, my wife, my brother, and I were on the tarmac before the press was.
Wow.
We were the only ones there. I mean, he got us in. We got to spend time and go through and check out his entourage, the vehicles, the Beast,
Wow.
just different vehicles.
Cool.
So we got some really good pictures of all that. And then when the plane landed, the plane landed and it comes up here taxiing up, and we're out there on the tarmac, and the door to the plane stops right dead in front of us. I mean, they stopped that big old plane right there in front of us. They push the deal goes up there, the stairs, and the door comes open. He comes down out of this thing, and they're starting to take him over to the other side where we're all standing, to some other people and press. And he looked at my wife and I, and he goes, "No, we're going to go right here. He kind of does what he wants to do.
Yeah.
You know,
And we've noticed.
He
It's
looked
awesome,
and
though.
he says, "No, we're going to go
I
right
like
over
it.
here." And he come right over and he talked with me and my wife. And I'm going to tell you what really struck me is the simple fact. You know, you meet a lot, even in the Army.
Yeah.
You know, you meet a general and everyone's scared to death to say anything because
Yeah.
they don't want to say something wrong.
Yeah.
And you know, or he's going to look down on us because he's a 5-star, a 4-star general, and this and that. President Trump come walking right over to us, and he talked with us. He didn't talk to us. And when we talked, when he asked me a question and I was talking to him, he was paying attention. He cared about what we had to say. That inspirated me.
Yeah.
Because not many people do that. A lot of people, you can tell the difference when someone's talking at you and when they're talking to you.
That's right.
And he talks to you. And he listens to you. It don't just go over his head.
Yeah.
It's not in one ear and out the other. He cares about what you got to say.
Right.
And it struck me is really odd. And I had my 101st hat on, my black 101st Airborne hat. And I just asked him, I said, "Sir, would you know," he started to go on down and meet up. I said, "Sir, would you sign my hat?" And he said, "Well, by golly, I sure will," you know, and he did. He stepped right back over to me, and he took my hat, and he signed my hat. And then there was a whole bunch of soldiers behind us and all this. Everybody starts pulling their hats off. Oh, my God, did we start something? You know, everyone's pulling their hats off and handing them hats and all this and that. It was really funny. But you know what? He stood there, and he signed them. And
That's so
he
awesome.
he did not just rush on down the line. You know I kind of started something maybe I shouldn't have started, but you know what? He cared about doing that.
Yeah.
He talked to my brother was there with us. He signed Mark's Kansas City Chiefs hat.
Oh.
It didn't matter to him. Hey, you're a Chiefs fan, we'll sign it.
And he's an
I just put
amazing
that-
man.
And Mark my brother proudly wears that Kansas City Chiefs hat,
I
by golly,
bet.
because it's got
I
President
actually
Trump's
put the
signature on
picture
it.
up of you that you had given me there for a few
Oh
months.
yeah, right there with President Trump. It was pretty. It was awesome. That was definitely, one of the super highlights of my life. Being able to
bet.
actually meet him and talk with him.
Right.
Yeah.
So
You
let
know.
me ask you this: in our upcoming segments, we got our whole month of June is already planned out. But here again, when you meet a man like that with, who is the president of the United States, who not demands but kind of pulls in that authority, has that authority, don't you kind of feel passionate in his presence?
Oh yes, yeah. You actually feel a little more powerful yourself.
Yes.
I'm privileged to stand here and talk with you and shake your hand, and it's just part of the aurora about it. I mean, great man. I mean, I think he really cares about what he's doing.
Oh,
He's
I do
doing everything, and he just seems to get so much slack from everybody. They won't leave him alone.
Oh man, that's another
Imagine what he
segment.
could do if
They left him
if they
alone.
left him alone
That's
and
another
Yeah.
segment.
let him do.
Yeah.
But the one thing he asked me, me being a small businessman, of course, I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there now.
That's
I'm-
where we're going
I'm
next,
the
so go
owner
ahead.
of STS Outdoors,
Yes.
Guns and Archery
Yes.
here in Springfield. We're lucky enough to have it in the old Dreyer's Shoe Store building
Right.
that my great uncle on my mom's
Wow.
side of the family had the Dreyer's Shoe Store there
right.
for like 73 years.
Yep.
And
Right here in town.
we're lucky enough to have our store in the same building.
Building.
Very same building.
That's
It's in
awesome.
the Plaza Shopping Center on Glenstone and Sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the inventor of the string stopper that's on all the boats all over the world. I am the STS man.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And my wife wanted to call it STS Outdoors to kind of we can try to build up the name a little bit. So, but President Trump asked me, what I did. And I told him, I said, I'm a small business owner, and we're starting to thrive a little bit now. Now all this COVID stuff has come out, but we have still been open through the whole COVID thing. We just keep things clean, keep your hands clean, wipe down the door handles,
Yeah.
anything someone touches in the store. I don't make a big deal out of it. I let them touch it.
And you got
But
a
then-
range there in
And
there,
then
too.
after they leave, we go wipe the stuff down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, whether it be a gun or a bow or whatever. And so we're not alarming everybody. Hey, we got to wipe that down. Don't touch it. You know,
Yeah.
you don't want to be that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have an indoor shooting range with the bows and all
Wow.
that.
I
So
wanna
yeah,
try that.
I am.
You've
I
been
am-
in there.
Yeah, I
You've
love
been in
tuning bows and I love
She
setting
did.
people up.
I haven't tried
And-
that yet, though. I want
Yeah.
to try that.
And if you're a veteran, I'll do whatever I can to help you out. I always have, always will. Just like our police officers and stuff like, you know, anyone that serves to help our country in any way. It doesn't matter to me if you're not a veteran. You know, if you're a police officer or, you know, you're on the fire department or anything like that.
Okay. All right. And also, let's go, since we're on this, STS Outdoors, can you give them your phone number, where you're at and located? And
Yeah, it is at 1852 South Glenstone, and our phone number is 417-881-BOWS.
Bose.
I got lucky enough to get Bose, so it's
Right.
2697.
Right.
But all you got to do is remember 881 Bose. And we're fixing to do a television commercial tomorrow
That's
for TV.
right. That's right.
So our Bubba commercials are going to kind of come to life now.
So then we a real live Bubba.
Yeah.
A Bubba Gump. Oh, I just watched that movie the other day. Hey, remember when we were children and they had the CBS movies back on TV, you know, and we'd come, I'd want to stay home, Mom and Dad take me to church on Sunday nights, but the movies would come on, the Walt Disney movies, and then they'd put that in the football games on TV, and it was always a competition.
Right.
Yeah.
And the old Hulk.
The
Little green
The
Hulk.
old
That's what
Green
got me
Hulk,
in.
I
I
know
would
it.
pull my weights out. I had weights set, and I had it in the living room. I would watch the Hulk, and I would lift weights.
Yeah.
Literally. I mean, that's what we
Yeah.
did. And then Dukes of Hazzard would come
Dukes
on.
of Hazzard, just a good old boy.
That
Never
was it,
mean
man.
no harm.
That was our childhood, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
it
We
was.
grew up in a really good time.
We did.
We grew up in a really good time. We
did.
have to really we did.
You know, even when I was a kid and we had to work, well, we worked on the farm. And as a child, you know, we grew up, we were always busy in the summer. And my dad one time decided to plant 9 acres of cucumbers.
Oh.
So
I love cucumbers.
So we hoed, we planted, we did the whole thing. But anyway, it was work all the time. But my mother allowed us to enjoy our work, and she would sing, and so we would sing. And I remember as a kid growing up singing every song we knew, and the Beatles was the group that was out at that time. So we sang every Beatles song we knew. We sang the Monkey songs. We sang everything.
That was
you
great.
know. Then that was a good era, and the music was good. And a lot of that music, I didn't realize at the time, but a lot of that music that they wrote back in those times was Christian based.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
remember-
we grew up in a really, really good time.
we really did.
We grew up with all the muscle cars, with the
yeah.
good music,
Good music.
Yeah.
the good bands.
Yeah.
School was still fun.
Yeah.
You know, we grew up in a good time.
You know, Troy was telling me one time that when he grew up in school, he said it just blows him away that they have the issues with the shootings in schools and stuff now. Because he said, we drove our trucks to school, parked them in the parking lot. and
With
in the
our
back
shotguns and 22s in the back window, by golly.
Loaded.
Loaded.
Yeah.
They were there.
Loaded.
I remember. I'm almost 40 and I remember that.
And we didn't want to go shoot each other.
No.
Shoot.
No, if we got into something, we just duked it
If
out.
anything, that would keep
Knuckle sandwich, baby.
You want to kiss my sister? Come on.
Knuckle sandwich. Here we go. That was it. There was,
That was
none of
it.
this. Well, I'm gonna go
No.
get my gun.
No.
We just punched each other in the nose, and
That's right.
it was
And
pretty
went
much
on
over
with
with.
And
after
went on
that.
with it. It was
And we were
over with.
friends after
We were
that.
friends after that.
It was
I
good.
know.
Oh yeah. That's true. That's
Yeah,
so true.
Our country needs a lot of that
Yes.
back.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
needs a lot of that back.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't have a safe room to go run
Well, I think
No.
I think a lot of things need to come back. I think families need to sit down at dinner tables and talk to the children and things like that. A lot of that kind of stuff, you know, because we grew up, we were tight knit families.
to. Right.
You know.
Yep. Good times.
So in the last couple of minutes we have, we've gone down the memory lane, but I just want to remember that the happiest people are not those who are always getting things, but those who are giving. And if anything today, we've given some information, we've made people happy, bringing up some memories and things like that. But most of all, we do want to remember those who have gone on before us, Joe And I know as a kid, you'll probably see it when you go to Mac, or they'll put it up on the TV today. But McPherson was there's a lot of veterans out there from the Civil War too out in Mac.
Yeah.
And we would go out there and put wreaths on there. 'Cause my dad worked for the city, so I got an opportunity to do that as a child. And then we'd always drive through there. It was the thing that Mom and Dad always wanted to do, is drive through the cemetery. And hey, by the way, you'll be there someday. And by the way, Mom and Dad and Mom and I will be here. And this is when Grandpa and Grandpa were still alive. And then Uncle Joe and Aunt Margaret are going to be over. You know, the family plot. So you've got this whole quarter acre here for your whole family over here by this one tree. And then we found that, and then I showed you a picture of Paul Witcher too. He passed on, but it's another one from high school. So, and think of all the people who have passed on in our high schools.
Yeah.
It's not just ours, but yours and everybody else's high school that are no longer
I
with
know.
us.
Yeah.
So we do want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today. But just remember that the happiest people are not those who are always getting more, but those who give more. And if you'll just give more in your life, and like Joe said earlier, was coming back and just being able to give. You know, give like he's doing. He's training. He's giving in teaching in his self-defense and things like that. Do you still teach it?
Well, yeah, because I've had people ask me, you know, well, do you do classes on
Yeah.
teaching archery and all this? Well, I don't really do classes, but anybody that needs any help,
Yeah.
I teach you how to shoot your bow.
That's right.
I'm not going to just sell you a bow and out the door you go. I mean, if you've got a young person, a young man, a daughter, a son that needs to learn how to shoot a bow, I teach them for free.
Right.
I don't charge anything. I never have. I have never charged anybody to teach them how to shoot a bow.
That's right.
It's just something that I do.
That's right.
You know.
That's right.
And it doesn't matter if you've been shooting a bow for 10 years, and if you need some help, I'll help you.
Right.
You know, I love helping people. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Well, before we go today, my wife wants to bring up a segment, part of our segment that you all know. We are Native American. We want to thank all those who are of the same blood that we are, who have served this country and still hold this country as ours. And it does matter what tribe you are, because each tribe has had their own battles on this sacred ground. But as we know, and I'm going to go back to World War II, dear, and World War II was not just won by the enemy with guns and war, but it was won by what?
Language. And actually, the American Indian, it was in World War I when they first had the first code talkers, and it was the Choctaw Nation. And what happened was one of the officers was on the battlefield, and he heard the Choctaw talking to each other, and he realized that, hey, wait a minute, they're speaking something I don't understand. So if I don't understand it, the German officers and all the other, people in the
Japanese.
military aren't going to understand this language. And so that's when they formed the first squad, and it was the Choctaw Squad, and it was called the Telephone Squad, I think.
Telephone Squad.
And then in World War II, of course, is when the Navajo Code Talkers came out. But there were actually like 7 different nations involved in that. And I know Mohawk, Comanche, Choctaw, and Navajo are the ones that I know about. But I think there were 7.
I think there's a movie they made about it called Wind Talkers, I think.
It's called Wind Talkers, but they just deal with the Navajo tribe, and I think one Choctaw, because our friend plays in that movie, and then Les plays in that movie too. But yeah.
But they, by the language, I mean, that's how they won those wars.
Yep. Japanese could not cipher our.
Yeah, they were definitely, what's this French? I don't know. They couldn't tell anything. They didn't know what was going
They
on.
didn't know what was going on. So, well, Matt, we want to thank you for this time that we've had today. We're running out of time. Joe, I want to thank you for being here and the memories, and we want to just ask the Lord to bless you and your ministry with your wife. Next time we'll have Bridget. Bridget, you got to meet Bridget. She's awesome.
I know, she just didn't want to come.
I know. She's
we actually lost our dog of 13 years yesterday.
Oh.
Bridget's not feeling very good. It was hard on me, too.
We
It
lost
is hard.
Chief. We lost
Yeah.
Chief last year,
We
and
had
I
him
cried.
we had Duke for 13 years.
Oh, man.
We had ours for 15.
15.
And he was a
so-
big German Shepherd, a little bit of wolf and German Shepherd, and
Yeah.
big dogs usually just don't last that long.
I know.
But he did. He he made it as long as he could.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to put him down. He actually just laid there with us.
That's
and
what we did
went
with
to
Yeah.
Steve.
sleep.
That's what we did.
That's what we did.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I wouldn't.
I know.
It was
hard yesterday. Yesterday was a
Yeah.
bad day.
Yeah. Was sorry about that.
Yeah, that's, definitely. Well, let's take this time. Let's just. We have a few needs that we need to take to the Lord. And Joe, if you don't mind, real quick, we're just going to offer a prayer up for our veterans and all those who have served in World War II, World War I, our Native Americans, the French, the British, all those who have just served on this land to hold up our freedoms and we just thank you for that. Father, we just thank you for each household that is represented here today in Memorial Day. Father, we ask you to bless those who are in self-containing places that they, because of this so-called virus, we ask you to be with them, bless them. May they know that wellness is coming around the corner. We just ask you to help Joe in his business, and we just ask that social media be nice to him, and as his business grows, that he'll be blessed. And we just thank you for that, Father. We just thank you for all those who have served and those who are about to serve. And there's those that are coming home, and we've got to be able to welcome them home too. So we just ask you to be with them. But let's remember today, in closing, that remember that the happiest people are not those who are getting more, but those who give more. And we just ask you right now, Father, to be with those who are giving more, and we ask you to be with those who don't have any at all. Father, be with them, and we just thank you for this time. Lord, we just ask you to be with Joe and Bridget and his family. We've known them from the past, and we just ask you to bless them, be with them. Father, we just ask you and thank you for this time that we've had, and we ask you to be with every one of those people that have needs of sickness, of heart disease, of diabetes, of leg cramps. We had a prayer request last night of someone who had financial need. We ask you to bless them. Father, we just ask you to bless those who are in nursing homes right now and those who are in town just opening up their businesses, that you'll build a hedge of protection over them. In the name of Yeshua, Jesus the Christ, we thank you for that. Oh, amen.
I want to thank you for letting me. Just get along great, just on the radio. We have a good time.
Good.
I love doing that stuff.